Is this a good deal for Amazon?
Well, it makes a lot of strategic sense. I think what they're trying to do is figure out more ways to drive Prime penetration, which jumped dramatically for them over the last 12 to 18 months. And based on survey work we've done over the years, the number two reason why consumers sign up for Prime is access to Prime Video. So Bond helps Prime and Prime helps Amazon because those Prime customers are far and away the most valuable customer cohort that Amazon has. So that, I think, is the strategic rationale, and we do think as a standalone market, streaming is a large market. We're not the only one who thinks that. Disney upended its entire business model to go after it. We think Netflix remains the leader in the space, and it can generate a lot of free cash flow. So yes, I'm sorry, it makes a lot of strategic sense.
Now, Kelly, Amazon Studios got off to a slow start in Hollywood, and Jeff Bezos has shown he's willing to spend here. What does MGM bring to Amazon that it didn't have before that helps give it more potential credibility in Hollywood?
Yeah, thanks. I think it brings a few things. The first is just the sheer volume of historic library titles, some that you mentioned, the Bond franchise probably being the crown jewel, and 4,000 films, 17,000 TV shows, from Survivor to The Voice to Handmaid's Tale, which are, these great pieces of content to have, both to put on Prime and to license out to third parties if that's something they want to do, and possibly explore or reimagine, as Jeff Bezos said today, into new sort of spin-offs or films and TV shows, kind of the way Disney did with Marvel. And the other thing that they're really getting with MGM is just a slate of really talented Hollywood executives that are well connected to this business, and are going to help it get an even greater foothold in Hollywood as they make new productions and inroads with distributors.
Mark, you also cover Netflix. Is this buy a threat to Netflix?
Two responses. One is that it's a recognition that there are 4 or 5 mega platforms in this space. So you got Disney, Google, YouTube, maybe Apple, Discovery with Time Warner, and Amazon and Netflix. So that's 5 large players. It clearly indicates the scope of the spending required to be competitive in this segment. I mean, you got to be willing to cut checks for at least $10 billion a year in order to be a global streaming provider. Netflix is doing that. They're spending $17 billion a year. So yes, it increases the competitive landscape. Though the offset you have here is that most households are going to sign up for 3 or more services. That's what we've seen in recent survey work. I'm almost certain that Netflix is going to be one of those 3. So Netflix has a hedge, but the competitive risk is rising.
Is Amazon going to be one of those 3?
I don't know. I don't know that they will. I know that Amazon Prime program is going to be most. I mean, it's something that's almost 80% of U.S. Amazon customers now are Prime customers. So that's going to be ubiquitous. And my guess is, when we look at the survey work, what we see is that the more likely you are to be a Prime member, the more likely you are to be a Netflix member. Like, it's a complementary service. Those 2 services are complementary. I think that's really the bigger trend here. There may be some competitive tuggles between the 2. The broader thing is that consumers are adopting digital solutions, whether it's online shopping or online streaming, and both companies can win in that environment.
Interesting. Kelly, now MGM has been seen as a takeover target for a few years. It didn't happen. It seems that the studio was struggling a little bit in the ownership department. What is the reaction in Hollywood on the ground? How are folks there feeling about this deal?
Yeah, I think initially there was some surprise. People kind of wondered if Kevin Ulrich, who runs Anchorage Capital, the lead hedge fund that owns MGM, whether he could pull this off. I think it's been, years and years, at least 5 years, that deal rumors have taken place. We've heard everything from Apple to Chinese companies that were interested in the studio. This latest sales process started at the end of last year. We know there were plenty of studios that took a look, and other tech companies that took a look. And ultimately, Amazon was just willing to pay the price tag that MGM wanted. So I think people are, a little bit surprised that the number was so high, but I think they see the logic in it, just given kind of the difficulty of being an independent studio these days.
So look, it's a big bet and a way to kick off Amazon shareholder meeting, Mark, with a bang. The other big news was Jeff Bezos finally giving a date for his departure. July 5th, that is the day that Andy Jassy will take over as CEO. Are you at all concerned about Bezos leaving the CEO role? I mean, looking at the big bets that the company has made, many of which, not all of them, but many of which have clearly paid off.
Well, I've always had a bias for founder-led companies, and so if he's not going to have an active role in the company, I think at some level that makes the Amazon as a stock less attractive. The open question is, he says he's going to stay as an executive chairman. The more that's executive and not chairman, the better it is for Amazon shareholders. I think what Brad Stone has pointed out better than anybody else is that Bezos has really been the inventor in chief which is rare, but inventor in chief at Amazon, and some of their best ideas, he was single-handedly or very handedly involved in generating Alexa, AWS, et cetera. So the company can operate extremely well. They innovate well without him. That's the big question mark for investors.